Hello, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is your host, Sandeep Pednekar, and you are watching One Universe, the show based on the nonprofit One Universe that promotes positivity through the promotion of love, peace, and harmony. And to do just that, we have a wonderful guest on our show, Dr. Carnita Atwater. Welcome to our show,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Atwater. So, please tell our viewers your background and something about you.
Again, my name is Dr. Carnita Atwater. I have served in the capacity of academic dean, dean of medical studies, dean of student affairs, medical director, nursing home administrator, business owner, teacher, nurse, and community activist, community organizer, and community developer.
Okay, so tell us about where you were born and where your family is from.
Okay, I was born in Clarksdale, Mississippi,
Mm-hmm.
and we moved here when I was like 13 years of age to Memphis, Tennessee.
Okay, all right, and your family?
I have family. I grew up mostly staying with my grandmother and grandfather, but my mother and father have passed at this point.
Mhm.
I have two sisters and one brother, and a host of nieces and nephews.
Very nice. But you have adopted quite a few children as well. You help kids.
Exactly. That's the pride of my life and joy. I adopted 92 foster children.
Mm-hmm.
I raised them, and they are very successful at this point. And that's one of my agape love I give back to the community. I love children. I love senior citizens. So, and in this community, New Chicago, I have about 125 community children
Okay,
that I take out to. I have taken them to Florida and Texas and Chicago and New York and Virginia. So I try to give them a different experience in life.
very nice. So New Chicago is in the northwest part of Memphis, Tennessee. And I want our listeners to know, you mentioned like 200 positions that you have held, like dean of this, dean of that, and so many other things. So, um, before you talk about each one of that, tell us how you reached there. Tell us your journey towards that position and where you held those.
Okay, I became the first dean of medical studies at the age of 28. I'm the youngest dean in the state of Tennessee,
And where was that?
in Drums Junior College in Clarksville, Tennessee.
Okay, very nice. Okay, which is like north of Nashville.
That's correct.
Yeah, very good. And how did you get to that position of being a dean?
Okay. I worked in the capacity of EMT, paramedic, a nurse, and I went into administration. And that was one of the reasons why they gave me the position. I was well qualified for the position, and also I have always been very active in the community.
I see. Okay, and that was the dean of
Dean of Medical Studies.
for the first that was the first dean position that you had.
Yes, 28 years old.
Okay,
Yes.
very good, very nice, very worth appreciating a whole lot. But tell us, how did you get to other positions, dean positions? Was it at the same college?
No. And then I went to Fugazi College, and I was the dean of student affairs there.
Mm-hmm.
And then they made me the medical director at
Very
that
nice.
particular college.
Wow.
And I had taken that college from 6 students to 350 in
Whoa.
1 year.
Oh my goodness, how did you do that?
I went outside in the community. It was a community, underserved community, and most of the instructors was afraid of that community. So I went out to the community, boots on the ground, and I recruited students.
Wow, that is pretty impressive.
Thank you.
Very nice. Okay, so tell me the journey ahead. Next, the dean of what?
Dean of Academic Affairs.
And where was that?
In Memphis, Tennessee.
Which
and,
college?
Fugazi College, and also National College of Business and Technology.
Okay, very nice. And I keep on asking, okay, which dean position did you have? Do you want to go over the list again?
Yeah, I have served in a capacity of a dean of medical studies, academic dean, dean of student affairs, a medical director,
Mm-hmm.
nursing home administrator, nurse, educator,
All right,
and business
very nice.
owner.
And how long did you do that? How many years was it?
I've been in the nursing field and administration field for over 45 years.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
And you are also a doctor. So
Yes, I have
tell
a
us,
PhD in public health administration,
I see. And where did you get that from?
Bristol University.
Okay, very nice. And did you follow through on that education and do something? Did you take a job or something with that degree or PhD?
Yes, I have always been in administration.
Mm-hmm.
So that PhD just folded into my career.
Mm-hmm.
I already had the career before I received my PhD.
Okay. Also, I know for a fact that you have been to just a few countries, right?
Yes.
How many few are those?
I lived in Germany, in Van Kissinger, Germany, Milan, Italy, Hawaii, um, Japan. I've been to India, Mexico. So I'm a world traveler. I love to travel.
And how many years have you done that?
About 45 years.
Wow. So I know when you go out of your area, of your field, then your horizons increase. Always, it's always the case with everybody. What has your perspective been? What have you learned because you spread your wings so far?
I have learned to be a person that embrace diversity.
Mm-hmm.
And so most of my friends is from different walks of life. And that gives me the insight to look at racism, systemic racism, culture in a different lens than most people.
All right. And you have, especially in New Chicago area, done a whole lot. So please tell our listeners your impact, the work that you have done on a grassroots level and other levels as well for the benefit of the society.
Yes. Just in New Chicago, each year, I have donated 5,000 book bags, school supplies, 5,000 coats and hats and gloves. I have purchased 200 air conditioners for senior citizens.
Oh my goodness.
I have been instrumental in helping senior citizens stay in their homes, about 50 of them, by paying their back taxes. I created 100 jobs for ex-felons and teenagers and gang members so that they would have money in their pocket and that decreased crime.
So you just gave a huge list of things. For me, each and every single thing is a phenomenal impact on the community. So can you explain each and every one and in more detail?
Okay. First and foremost, the things that's close to my heart is feeding the homeless.
Okay.
And every year I feed about 10,000 homeless people. And so that is
10,000 each year?
10,000, if not more.
Wow.
So I go out, boots on the ground, and I find the people living in cardboard or under the railroads or under the overpass. So I know most of the homeless people in this city.
Okay. So, and when you say you have fed, see, when people and organizations do this kind of a food drive, I know I have done Meals on Wheels through MIFA.
Right.
So I have gone into communities where people don't go. And people, especially who have lived in those neighborhoods, say, oh, I don't want to go back there. I said, I am going. I am not from here. And I want to go and make an impact. So for me, I am doing it through somebody else because an organization or institutions already exist. And for me, that organization was MIFA, the Metropolitan Interfaith Association, right here in Memphis, Tennessee. And I know they are doing such a phenomenal job and for decades. But in your case, did you reach out to some organization? From what I understand, you have done it all by yourself. Is that correct?
That's correct. But ironically, I was a volunteer for MIFA 25 years ago.
Okay.
Meals on Wheels. So I have worked with organizations.
Okay.
But also not only MIFA, you have other local organizations been doing it before MIFA. MIFA is just a larger organization. And then you also have small churches that's been serving the community for over 40, 50 years. It's just that organizations like MIFA receive a lot of the government funding. And people like myself, which I never have taken a penny from the government, but people like myself have been doing it for years, but sometimes do not get that recognition.
And here is our opportunity, and that is why I'm here. I sincerely want to tell my viewers that I am thoroughly impressed with what Dr. Carnita Atwater has done for the community. And correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I understand, you have spent your own money from your pocket and not reached out to some other organizations to do this impact. I mean, if you have done, there is nothing wrong because
Right.
you doing it in the first place is humongous for the community. But if you are doing not only doing it, putting boots on the ground yourself and also chipping money from your own pocket, that is humongous times three or
Well,
raised to three, I should say, not just times three.
Well, I cannot take all the credit myself because I grew up in a family where my mother and father did the same community outreach. My
Nice.
mother is known for giving back even to the New Chicago area. So it's not just me because you have elders in this community too that work hand in hand with me.
Okay.
You have churches that have also worked hand in hand with me, like Grace Missionary Baptist Church.
Mhm.
When they found out what I was doing in the community, then we did a collaborative and they also helped with the administration of food drives and food baskets and passing out toiletries. So I won't take all the glory for that. But I do have people that friends that volunteered and go out with me sometime.
Mhm.
Yes, I am the what I would call the brainchild behind it, but it's been many more people that have helped me throughout the years.
Beautiful, beautiful. So that also goes to talk about your collaborative efforts and your
Yes.
efficiencies of reaching out to different organizations within the community to achieve the goals that are so important for the benefit of our society.
Yes, I have worked with Girls and Boys Club, Boy Scouts of America, Girl Scouts of America. So I have always embraced organization, but sometimes you have to be boots on the ground and get the job done. And so that's what I do.
Okay, great. So now that is one. What is the next impact you can talk about?
Okay. What I did a program called No More Tears, and that is a program that we go out and we rescue women going through domestic violence.
Hmm.
And I have a underground railroad type organization where when women come here, even with their children, we house them, give them food, give them clothes until we can find an apartment for them to live. So I'm very instrumental in domestic violence.
And you have been doing that for 2 decades,
Yes, over 20 years.
over 20 years.
Yes.
Okay. And where do you get the funding for that?
Everything come out my own personal
On pocket,
funding.
okay.
Yes.
And in all of these 2 decades, how many women have you helped?
We administer to about 100 a year.
About 100 a year.
Yes.
Wow. So that's 100 times 20 years?
Oh, yes.
Oh my
yes.
goodness, that is a big impact.
Yes. And keep in mind, my reach is not narrow to just Memphis. I also do community outreach in Clarksville, Tennessee, Ashland City, Jackson. I just passed out about 500 gifts to Union City last year when they had that flood.
I see.
And then when they had the flood in Waverly, Tennessee, I donated a lot of toiletries and foods and water there also too.
I see. Okay. So first of all, I mean, you might hear about the floods and the issues in the community, so you probably, I'm imagining that you reach out because you heard
Right.
in the news, you read it somewhere. But if there is an individual who has some issues, how do they come to know that this person in this community is somebody I can reach out to?
Word of mouth, and then I have a strong network of people that refer them to me.
I see.
Because keep in mind, domestic violence is pretty much a privacy type thing and a safety issue.
Mm-hmm.
So we do it underground.
Okay. So are these issues handled by the law or you handle it all by yourself?
Well, we don't get into the law aspect of it.
Okay.
Our only mission is to get them to safety.
Okay.
Now, some people have called the law, but we do not intervene in that part right there.
Okay. So again, even if that you have done it for 2 or 3 women or women and children, I would still be appreciative. And I know our listeners will agree. I know our viewers have gone through, at least listening, they might not have gone through domestic violence, or they might have not experienced it. They might not have even heard it. But from third or fourth person, when they hear, I know that they realize what an impact, a huge impact this is for that individual, that family, and a community as a whole. So, hats off to you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much that you have done this. Okay, let us talk about the third thing.
Okay. The third thing would be starting an educational program, a reading program for children.
Okay.
We teach Spanish as a second language here. And also we teach children, we have taught about over 5,000 children how to read. We have about 10,000 books that we use and 20,000 videos that we play. So as an educator, I'm a advocate for educating children. And especially with this third grade retention law, I think it's imperative now that we truly educate at home and in the community.
I don't know what to say.
Oh,
I
thank
am
you.
in awe of this. I am truly humbled by what you have done. I'm wondering how come you have not been honored by one of the presidents of the United States of America.
Actually, I received a award from President Bill Clinton years ago, but that had something to do with my educational background, but
Okay.
not from a community outreach. I have not. No, I take that back. I have received awards from the county commissioner,
Okay.
and I think one or two city councilmen, I think. And I also received an award from Governor Ned McWaters also too.
Okay.
And I also, about 2 or 3 years ago, I received an award from Governor Bill Lee,
Wow. And what was that for?
being an outstanding citizen to the community.
How nice.
Yes.
Beautiful. I'm so glad that your efforts are being recognized. And I think that at least once a week, there has to be a story about you on the main news channels for what you have done and what you do. I think news channels should come here and talk to you and have something about you.
Well, part of that is who I am as a person.
Mhm.
Okay, so you get into politics when you talk about that. I don't think that the news channel will come and talk to me because of what I have done in the past. And one of the things I have done is fought against the Memphis 3.0.
Mhm.
And to me, in my own personal opinion, that comprehensive plan was what I would call discriminatory. It was a plan that was supposed to benefit the citizen as a whole. But when I read that 385-page plan, it did not offer underserved and marginalized communities like Black and brown and poor white communities. The only thing they offered them was pedestrian walks, bicycle trails, and community garden. No community block grants, HUD funding, EDGE funding, or any other major funding. So I pushed against that. And so that's when light was shined on me from that. And then also I filed a $20 billion lawsuit against the city, county, and the state for discriminatory action.
Regarding the 3.0 plan?
Regarding the 3.0 plan, economic disparities, healthcare disparities, taxation without representation, environmental injustice. So I had about 20 different counts in that lawsuit.
I see. Okay. Let us talk about environmental injustice. What can you tell? What were the burning issues that you had to take that as within the environmental injustice?
Okay, as a community activist, we fight against a lot of environmental injustice causes. Starting with New Chicago. New Chicago was a neighborhood that was thriving. You had doctors and lawyers and dentists and teachers and just a thriving community. And then Firestone Tire Company was in this community. for 4 or 5 years, maybe more, Firestone Tire Company released a lot of chemicals and toxin in the air and in the soil in this community. And we're still battling with that because you have a lot of people in New Chicago have died from cancer, or they have asthma, congestive heart failure, heart attacks. And so then you have the depot area. The Army Depot was in that area, which is called Elsie Ball area. And so they spilled a lot of chemicals in the soil there and in the air. And that community experienced a lot of health problems also too. Keep in mind, most places that, like chemical places, put in predominant Black, poor neighborhood. But as of today, that problem has not been rectified. And ironically, it's where you get back into political corruption. The money that was earmarked for the Alcee Ball community, which is predominant Black, that money was given to FedEx. $2.5 million was given to FedEx not too long ago. And then also they gave $600,000 that was earmarked to this Black community to Germantown, Collierville, Bartlett, and Arlington. So that's why I push against a lot of things, because it is a lot of political corruption going on in the city.
Wow, I am stunned. So, all these issues are out in the open, correct? Everybody knows about it. Why, forget about everybody, but why aren't a few people making that a major issue and not fighting for or against it?
You can fight. I'm a fighter, a bold fighter. But when you have governmental discriminatory rules and regulations and policy and procedures in place, then it's more than just fighting. Okay? It's a conscious mindset to change the barbaric thinking of how you treat people as a human being.
So you mean to say that before these atrocities are kind of levied on people, they put in policies and procedures and rules and regulations such that it treads the way for them to do this for the community?
Let me give you a couple examples. In the latter part of the 90s, they did a study in Lamont Garden. And that study was to detect the body burden of children, the lead in children in Lamont Garden. Well, that study came back, and the African American children in that community had a high rate of lead in their body. No one did anything about that. Now, if you have a high rate of lead in your body, that causes mental illness, that cause deficiency as far as acting out, reading deficiencies, learning deficiencies, but no one did anything about that because it involved Black children. And I would beg you to say that if it was any other race of children, they would have addressed that study. The next issue is the ETO, and that just happened about 2 or 3 months ago in South Memphis in the Florida area. That toxin been released about a decade in South Memphis. And the city know about it, the county know about it, the state and the EPA know about that exposure. Now, why have they not done anything to this company for that exposure? People have cancer over there, they had heart attacks, asthma, learning disabilities. And I would say, because I'm a public health administrator, I would say that I could venture off to connect it to a crime. Because I have read many studies that when people are exposed to chemical, is a high risk of creating crime in the community. So we have these issues in the city that they want to roll under the rug, but they have a Dr. Carnita Atwater that's not letting them roll it under the rug. Because I think that you have a responsibility and to have due diligence to take care of every citizen in this community, not just the affluent or someone that you want to take care of.
So just listening to you, it reminds me of a couple of movies that have come. Erin Brockovich and another played by one actor regarding an attorney who fought for the benefit of a society where the rivers and everything was poisoned. But I'm looking at you and I think we could make 10 movies of what you have done and the impact that you have had on the community. Unfortunately, I also hear that because of the laws that have already been set in for the benefit of big companies, there cannot be measures that can be taken to stop that. They are still unaccounted for. Nobody has taken them to court, or have they been taken to court and nothing drastic major has happened against those companies?
Well, let's talk about the court. In the court system, and I can't speak of what I do not know, but I'm going to speak about what I know in Memphis. In Memphis, you have the attorneys and judges and a host of other people that work hand in hand. And even if you have a legitimate lawsuit, that legitimate lawsuit may be dismissed for whatever reason. So you can file a lawsuit. That does not mean that you're going to be successful at that lawsuit. Now, as you was talking, I was thinking about an article I just read about Memphis water. Now, we hear people say all the time that Memphis have the best water in the United States. Now, if you go and look at Memphis Light Gas and Water handout, which I have, they talk about how sweet the water tastes. And that may be true, because when you go to other cities, they have rusted type water. But what they're not telling the public is the contaminant that's in the water. So the article I just read 2 days ago is how we have over 23 breaches in the aquifer now. At first they said 2 or 3 breaches. Okay, so when you have a breach in the aquifer, and I told you about Firestone, we know about TVA and the coal ash there. And if they're releasing chemicals in the soil and in the air, then it's getting into our water. It is the responsibility of the city, the county, and the government to protect the citizens of this state.
So why is it not being done?
It goes back to political corruption, and also, too, you have a lot of money being made. See, healthcare is a major business. And so if people are getting sick, it would be so good to have intervention and preventive measures to keep people from getting sick, like the food deserts. Okay, why would they allow communities, black, brown, and poor neighborhoods to not have a grocery store and have food deserts? But yet we're more concerned about build up, live, play, and work in your community. But who is that for? Momentum. Who has the momentum? For who? When you go in neighborhoods like this, there's no momentum. For the last 50 years, there's no major economic development in predominant black neighborhoods. So who has the momentum?
So let me ask you this. Let us say that that something were to happen, and this is one of my pet peeves, talking to mayors, talking to senators. I tell them for the growth of any city, we have to have a good infrastructure that can invite other companies that do benefit, offer jobs, and give out to the community. Now, because of lack of infrastructure, companies don't come. When they come, we give them tax incentives. But after a period of time, they leave because they do not have a good workforce. They are not getting what they thought they would, and the impact as a business that they are coming to do is not fully satisfied. So they leave. And 2 examples are Samsung and which was the other company that came here?
Electrolux.
Electrolux, yes. So
Well,
now they came, we gave them so many things. And this was during the time of AC Wharton, but soon after they just left. So, what if a company comes here? Let us say that we are talking about ash, we are talking about these chemicals, we are talking about other hazardous materials that is let out into the air to create air pollution, into the land to create land pollution, and into the water to create water pollution. What if a company says, you know what, we are ready to take care of it, and we are going to help the existing companies, maybe Firestone, which is right here next door. What if they come and reach out to the community? Let us say they reach out to you with your knowledge and your experience of what major corporations do, how they lobby other people. But if this new company comes and says, we are for the benefit of the people, for the community, such that there is no pollution of any kind, we are here to not only take care of the pollution, but take care of all the pollution that has done in the past. What would your take be?
let me go back first when you say infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
And I want this to be on the record.
Mm-hmm.
We so often talk about infrastructure as far as a manufacturing company or a building or a physical plant.
Mm-hmm.
I look at infrastructure from the human being perspective.
Mm-hmm.
If we're not taking care of the people, the human capital,
Mm-hmm.
then why are we putting trillions of dollars into business or manufacturing companies coming into Memphis?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I believe in a happy balance of things. I cannot talk about major infrastructure if we have people dying on the streets of Memphis, homeless. That's my point of view. Now, if I had a company to come in, which we're talking reality or fantasy, it's one thing to fantasize what a company would do. But if you go back and study, most companies that come into predominant black and brown community, poor neighborhoods,
Mm-hmm.
they are not there for the benefit of the people.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I say that, no company should be coming into Memphis not having an impact study
Mm-hmm.
or a community benefit agreement. What a community benefit agreement would be is bring the people that live in that community to the table, not after backdoor deal.
Correct. I'm asking um, as an example that if a company would want to come and reach out to you as a leader in the community and some other leaders and say, before we come in, we want to tell you that this is the impact that we want to have. If a business is coming, they obviously have to make profits, right? But along with the profits that they do, if the impact on the community is positive and positive only,
Yeah.
what would your take be?
Yeah. The first answer would be not if, when. Okay. Most of the time, when a manufacturing company is coming to a poor neighborhood, the deal have already been made. But if they came to me and it happened, a company came out to me and they met right here in this very building. They wanted to purchase 100 acres up the street. And there was going to be some type of company that refurbished some type of oil or whatever the case may be. When I researched that company, I pulled up so many EPA grievance against them.
Violations.
Yes. Okay. So I'm not that open-minded that a company come, because the first question would be why? Why you want to come to New Chicago after 50 years? We've been suffering and struggling here for a long time. Why would you want to come now while they gentrifying this neighborhood? Because that's what's happening. And if a company come now, they wouldn't be coming to bring the job for the people living in this area. Because they're pushing the people out because people are not qualified. So if a company come here, you would first have to do workforce development in order for them to qualify for your job, just like the Blue Oval. Okay, it's like putting their horse before the cart. They sign on to Blue Oval, a $5.6 billion deal. There's no community benefit agreement because as we speak, they're trying to take some of the black people land and property from them and give them a little bit of money, while they're giving the whites more money than they're giving the black. So you got to look at the systemic racism that go on. I happen not to be a naive person, and just because you come to me, I'm going to research you and dissect why you coming here. Now, let us not get confused here. Memphis is gentrifying and causing genocide on the people in this community, all over the black community. Okay, and why I say that, when you have $3.5 billion that's been allocated and given to downtown, and trillions of dollars given to uptown, downtown, and crosstown, Poplar Corridor, which mostly affluent neighborhood, and we know pretty much who live there. But you have not given any substantial funding to predominant neighborhoods like Douglas and Hollywood and Hyde Park and New Chicago, Bearwater, Smoky City, Westwood, West Junction, and Walker Home. Why is that? See, that's what we need to talk about. We need to come to the table and talk about the decades of discriminatory action and systemic racism that's been placed on the people. That's the only way we're going to move forward. We can't start in the middle and say, oh, if a company from out of town come to your community, why not give us the funding to build our own community and sustain our own community?
So who would come forward to make that happen?
Who would come forward to make what I said happen?
Mm-hmm.
If you was very sustainable and racially not biased, then there would be stakeholders,
Mm-hmm.
Business owners, small business owners. See, we're always talking about large corporations coming to our community, but business owners, small business owners are dying every day. Why we won't give tax incentive to the small business owners? Now, when you talk about tax incentive, what I would do if I become mayor, which I'm running for mayor, I would go back and revisit tax incentives, because there are many research out there that talk about the pros and cons of tax incentives. Who are they benefiting? These companies, who are they benefiting when they come into our city? And they take taxpayers' money. Electrolux, Pinnacle Airline, Service Master, left Memphis owning millions of dollars. Yet the city is selling poor people property at an alarming rate in this city. It's nothing fair about that. When you putting your feet on the necks of poor people, but you letting rich people come in here and ravage the community and leave out. Something wrong with that picture.
Okay. So what I'm asking you is, would some people in the community come together and have a plan for making an impact in the neighborhoods that they live in? Would you like that?
Now, what I like that we have already done that.
Okay.
When they put the Memphis 3.0 on the table,
Mm-hmm.
the New Chicago, it was called the Community Partnership Revitalization Plan.
Mm-hmm.
We came up with our plan. We, the stakeholder, came up with the plan. We don't need someone dictating to us in our community what needs to go on in our community. So we came up with a plan, and it was a very thorough, detailed plan. And so New Chicago came to the plan first. We was going to work with Douglas, Hyde Park, West Junction. We had 15 predominant African-American communities at the table. We are astute and intelligent enough to know how to govern our own community. We've been doing it for years. But when you have biased government that give other people local, state, and federal funding and not give the underserved community the same funding, that's when you have inequality. And that's the problem they have with me.
Okay. All right. So I want to have a detailed discussion about this in second, third, and fourth interview. And I would like to dwell deep into the issues that are boggling the people down, but also what solutions are there. You mentioned right now a few. And the idea, I always on my show, I talk about ideas, and one single idea can be worth $1 billion, not a million, billion with a B. but that idea is worthless if it is not implemented. So we will talk about how it can be implemented, and how the areas that have been downtrodden for decades can flourish again. But let me get back to the other things that you have done in the community.
Well, again, talking about being a community advocate,
Hmm.
I'm going to always fight for justice
Hmm.
in this city, and that's what I'm known of. I do a lot of research, and you were saying about why the news hadn't came to me, and that's the reason why at this point. Also, I try to bring people together in a collaborative way, and not only do I minister to the African American community, I try to go out and reach the Asian community, the African community, so that they would have a voice also too. Because Memphis is not just black and white, okay? And that's what, if we're ever going to grow this city, we need to take the blinders off and be realistic about what we have done to the people. And when I say people, I'm talking about people of all race, nationality, creed, religion, gender, economic status, and disability, and socioeconomic status also too. If we do not address that, and as you ask me different questions, I'm thinking because so much have went on, and in order for you to address it, you must know the problem. You can't come with the solution until you're willing to
Correct.
to
That is the
address the
first step.
problem,
The first step is to know what the
identify the
problem is,
problem.
and all the sub problems associated, sub problems and issues associated with the major problem that has got several parts of the communities down. And they are very selective that have been gone down, and there are some communities that no matter what have thrived. So it has, if we have started together, some have gone down, and the others, they have not necessarily stayed. Some might have stayed where they are, but others have gone up a whole lot, and many have gone down. So the disparity, I totally get it, that there has been there, and I am very thankful and grateful to you that you have been instrumental in making those changes for our community. So thank you so much.
You're welcome, but the change will not just come from me. It's going to take people opening their mind and getting past the systemic racism. See, we don't want to call a spade a spade. We want to tap dance around what's going on in Memphis. And I can't dance anyway, so I refuse to dance. Okay? So we want to not address the real issues and address the pseudo issues. Okay? So I don't let people engage me into all this momentum going on in Memphis and not talk about the homelessness, the economic disparities, the human trafficking. We have a lot of killing, crime. I refuse to talk about donating trillions of dollars when 350 people died on the streets of Memphis in 2021. So people's lives is more important to me than some building. Okay, anything that you can present to me, I have already thought about it, and the people of Memphis, the leadership know, I know. But it's easier to attack me than to work with me. And so we have caused grave genocide in this community. And when I say genocide, that's what I mean. Okay, it's past gentrification. When you letting people die. Just today, I did a petition. They're closing the only health care clinic in North Memphis on Breelove. They're closing that today. If you care about people, why would you close anything that would promote good quality of health and good quality of life? So these are the problems that I'm not going to close my eyes and turn my back on.
I hope and pray that God gives you strength to go on and on and on for years and years to come, that you live for another 200 years, and your impact on the community is such that it grows and grows and grows by leaps and bounds, in the positive direction.
Thank you. My quote in life is, I'd rather die on my feet than on my knees. And What I mean by that, I'm not going to bow down to the atrocity going on in the city. I'm going to stand up like the woman, the African queen that I am. I'm going to stand up and fight to the dead end. I must fight because some of these people are too scared to fight. They're too downtrodden to fight for themselves. So it's going to take a person like me. And so whatever comes my way, I'm prepared by any means necessary.
Perfect. And with that, I want to thank you for coming on our show. And on my show, I want to say that this is not the last interview. We want to dwell in on the positivities. We want to talk about the negativities, but talk about the positivities that can be done to overcome those negatives in our society. So thank you once again for coming on our show.
Thank you for the invite. Not too many people invite me on their talk show.
Well,
Thank you.
I'm telling you, you're definitely worth it.
Thank you.
I'm sorry that others don't look at it that way, but I do.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And have a phenomenal day.
Same to you.
Until next time, have a great time. And when you tune into our show, know that we are going to talk about matters that matter to you, to the community, and talk about positive solutions that can be implemented for the benefit of the entire society. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.